questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so 1 Corinthians chapters 5
played.
and 6. So this week we are reading those two chapters, and so
What chapters?
chapters 5 and 6 of 1
Sorry,
Corinthians,
I was thinking about the comment. I wasn't paying attention,
which for the most part,
which is what a lot of people do.
not listen.
Yes.
Or
When you say something, they get distracted and they don't hear the next.
Do you ever do that with your wife? Like she's talking.
She started a conversation the other day. She said, "Let me repeat." I thought, what a strange way to start a conversation.
I do love how like you'll be sitting there and all of a sudden some random
good.
comment will come, and you realize that she's been having a conversation in her head for 15 minutes, and I'm just hearing the first time for the first time. Did that ever happen to you? Or you just don't listen, so you don't know.
She may have been talking for 15 minutes. I don't know.
I'm really bad. Let's not talk about marriage till next week.
Next week. Oh man.
Levi, hit us with some questions.
okay, so these two chapters, they have a couple different things going on. But first, Caleb, I thought you did a great job setting up some context for us.
Good to know. Didn't get an opportunity to watch it. Go ahead, Caleb.
You're missing out, Matt. You're
Oh, yeah.
really missing out.
So Caleb,
I've heard a question.
He
yet,
starts
though.
every podcast offending one of us.
This is an
I am triggered.
evaluative
I'm triggered.
position here.
Hey,
I'm not listening
calm
to
down.
a word that you say.
Calm down.
That's my line.
this is Caleb's time.
Go ahead, Mr. Context.
Okay, Caleb, go ahead and set up for us just how chapter 5 starts. Like, what are some of the things culturally
To
going
be
on?
clear, Levi, Jeff set up the context so well, I didn't feel like I needed to.
Fair enough.
So, anyway, go ahead.
See, this is a problem. Anytime in this modern era that we try
Oh my goodness.
to proclaim
trying to
anything
model
true,
something
it ticks
here.
people off. His
Yeah.
context was good. He didn't say yours was crappy.
Yeah.
Or did he? Or did he?
Hey, stop being.
He might have wanted to, but he didn't.
I think we first need to go back
So
to
you just
chapter
need to suck it
3
up.
I agree.
from 2 weeks ago and stop making
sorry.
the focus ourselves, and let's talk about the Word of God and
Are you
truth.
talking?
Let's quit laughing.
Okay, so
more
context.
fun.
I don't know how much of that we're
No
cutting
more
out or
fun.
not. So context.
A lot of it.
So this chapter, these two chapters, there's a lot of stuff in there. For me personally, I think Matt Price is saying it's uncomfortable to talk about. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going in, but I think we got to understand what is going on in the church in Corinth and why Paul is bringing it up. And so you got to remember, this is a new church. They're 3 to 4 years old, roughly. Paul was with them 18 months, so not very long. Like you really think about it, he was with them 18 months, and then he moves on his missionary journey. He settles in Ephesus for a little bit. And so you got these new believers.
Do you think they had anything other than an oral memory of what he taught them?
No.
No. So it's all recollection.
Yep.
You know how dangerous that is.
Well, in 18 months is my life group and I, we were talking about this last night because my current life group, we have been together for 20 months and we're getting ready to multiply. But in that concept, like Paul was with them 18 months, and the difference is like not all, but a big part of my life group, they have been part of the church their whole life. In this case, like they hadn't heard the gospel message for the most part, to the best of our knowledge, prior to Paul going to them. So he's been with them 18 months. He's presented the gospel.
They have nothing written down.
They don't have anything written down. And then you got
This
to
is
keep
their
in mind.
first document.
Yeah. And well, technically
Well,
it's
no.
I
the
guess that's
second.
true.
That
Second.
does come out in this section.
But you got to remember too, they're living in a very secular culture. And so Corinth is full of, the biggest thing is the temple to Aphrodite. So she's the goddess of beauty, fertility, love, and history. Tells us they had 1,000 prostitutes, for a better term, that were serving, use that term very lightly, within the church. And so culturally, like they are surrounded by so much of this sexual immorality that a lot of it becomes the norm. And so I went through some of the stuff that I just learned through research through this. And so some of the stuff, like for wives, like the men expected their wives to stay true to their husbands. They expected them to stay pure for their husbands. But the men, on the other hand, they had a lot of liberties. And so for the men in that culture, it was okay for them to have sexual relationships with prostitutes. It was okay for them to have sexual relationships with their own slaves, female slaves, underage or not, and it was acceptable for them to have sex with other men. They did draw the lines. They frowned upon if you had sex with underage free girls, not slave girls. But I mean, all this stuff is going on, and culturally, so it's going on. And so we set that text up right off verse 1, and he's addressing because there's sexual immorality going on. And obviously, Paul's hearing about this. We talked about this last week. There was at least 3 house churches that made up the church in Corinth at this point. There may have been more that we know 3 of. And so we know the house of Chloe is informing what's going on. And so he's addressing what's going on. But we got to understand what's going on around them, because you see, like, this is prevalent throughout that. But it's also very key to understand in this particular couple chapters, he's not addressing the sin in Corinth. He's not addressing the sin out in their culture. He's addressing sin that is happening within the church. He's addressing Christians, people who proclaim that they are followers of Jesus Christ, and the way that they are living.
And I thought Matt pointed out a good element to that too, is not just the sin that was taking place, but the fact that they're celebrating it. And he talked about tolerance and how we tend to elevate the virtue of tolerance to be acceptance, celebration, even of sin. And so, when Paul points that out, this is taking place. Number one, the pagans are repulsed. They're not even, incest. They're not approving of that. And you're celebrating this, that you're so tolerant.
There you go, Matt.
Yeah.
It's 1-to-1
Yeah,
now.
well,
You did a good job on
I don't
that.
know. You crushed the
It's
context.
1-to-1.
You included a metaphor, a picture to kind of frame how we think about this section. That was fantastic. You wanna elaborate on that?
2-to-1. About the splinter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paul uses the metaphor of
I didn't even
yeast
think it
and
was that
leaven,
gross.
but
you
you used the metaphor.
You really
of
hyped
splinter.
that up. I didn't even think that Splinter was that. I mean,
Well, no.
Dude.
Go ahead and say what you said.
Well, I got the splinter, but I didn't address it, and it was in the bottom of my foot. I couldn't see it, and so by the time my wife had to remove it, it was getting hot. It had about an inch red spot around it, and an infection was setting in.
Pus and nastiness.
It was disgusting. It was gross.
What you did say, I'm trying to quote. You said, real men, what do? They just leave it in there.
or they pull it
You
out
did.
themselves.
And this is what I think. Real men, they pull out their pocket knife
Yeah,
and they
cut
slice
it
that
out.
thing out of there.
Wait, can you really
But I
not
couldn't
see the
even-
bottom
I
of
couldn't
your
even-
foot?
I couldn't even reach it.
He
I
was-
guess if it's in the bottom of your foot.
He was stretching to have
That is
an
true.
illustration.
If it's in a place
I
you
really
can't
was.
see where you're sticking your pocket knife.
Can you not
The
see the
point-
bottom of your foot?
I mean,
I
not in
can't.
that specific
Okay.
location.
So
We're going to need to work on your
But the
flexibility.
point was, you got to deal with sin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You got to pull it out.
for your good.
that was a good illustration. I'm just razzing it now because you're ahead.
Gross.
It was pretty gross.
Sin is, especially sexual immorality that we're talking about. It was nasty.
My wife's a nurse, and so she thought it was cool, but I thought it was gross.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, because even these 2 chapters, like we start with this one specific instance, but then even as we go through into chapter 6 and finish off the chapter 6, like seems to be a bigger overarching teaching on sexual ethics and what happens what happens in an individual believer's life affects the larger community. And so,
Well, about the time you think, well, I'm okay because I'm not doing that sin, Paul broadens the list to
Yeah.
to be pretty inclusive.
yeah,
I mean, Jesus does the same thing when he talks about. What's one of the things I wish that I could have got to, but there's so much that you can say, and you get 30 minutes on a weekend. But like I thought about when Jesus was talking about when he was talking to the Pharisees, and he tells them, if you look at a woman lustfully, you commit adultery with her in your heart. And so in that moment, he basically tells everybody we're all guilty of this. So whether it's looking, whether it's something beyond that, that's the line, is to show us that we're all guilty. So
yeah. So it kind of seems like he gives us a distinction between how we respond to other believers inside the church versus non-believers outside of the church. What and how do we apply that concept to us today?
Yeah, we don't hold the world to the same standards as what we hold people in our life groups, and even those who call themselves Christ followers.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the distinction there is that we don't, but God does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they're off the hook for eternity, right?
Right.
That's that's up to God. That's not us to judge.
What would you say is, in laying this teaching out, what's Paul's heart here?
It is repentance.
Mm-hmm.
It is that they turn. It is verse 11 of chapter 6 that you were washed. Like you realize that you've been given this new identity through Jesus Christ, and you turn and repent.
He doesn't want the soul lost.
Right.
So one thing you
Right.
said, because it talks about you treat them like you remove them, treat them like a unbeliever, and that's a really big part of this because I would say a lot of misunderstanding comes from that of like, how do you treat a non-believer? Well, whenever you read that, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you get rid of them and like they're just out there."
Right.
No, like. You share the gospel with them, with your lives, with your lips. Like you build relationships. Yeah, and you pointed that out, and I thought that was really, really helpful because that is the correct response.
It is the opposite.
Gospel.
It's the opposite of what we're seeing culturally.
Yeah,
Like
it's
what's
not
going on.
isolate.
It's like, hey, you're over here, and because you're over here, I'm way over here,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and I don't want anything to do with you.
It's not isolate, which is bad, and it's also not, oh, you're okay, we love you.
Yeah, it's not acceptance of where they're at.
Right.
It's a concern, a biblical concern for their eternity.
Which is exactly what you said. It's
It's discipline, not punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Paul's heart here is love for that person and also love for the church. And we get hung up on these little phrases that he says. And so like verse 5 in particular, hand the men over to Satan. We get hung up right there and we don't continue reading the verse.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, man, that is so harsh. Like why would we do that?
I broke them up on
This is a Christian, I do. This is a Christian brother or sister, and we're just supposed to not be loving. That's what our society says. Not be loving by hand them over 7. But actually, the not loving thing would be not to do so and let them continue in the sin that they're doing. But the end of that verse says, hand them over to Satan so that the sinful nature may be destroyed. And then the very key is the very end, that his spirit may be saved on the day of the Lord. And then as he goes on, and he's talking about that, and he's talking about when you're dealing with these unrepentant Christians, people who know Jesus Christ, but for one reason or another, they cannot let that go, and they keep pursuing that sin, even though, man, they've been encountered about, they've been talked about, but they can let go. And what did he say? He's don't even eat with them. And so what was that representing?
Fellowship.
What is it? Like what he's saying, he's like, don't let your presence make them think like you are an approval or what they're doing, or don't let your presence with them, associate with them, make them feel like the church approves of what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And because that's not the case at all. But the whole thing is, even at the end, he talks about chapter 5, expel the wicked one among you. The whole point was he wants to preserve the church, preserve the holiness, the sanctity, the unity, the purity of the church, but he also wants to restore the believer back to Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And then going into chapter 6, it looks like we have some disputes, we have divisions, we have lawsuits, we have conflict that
among each other.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is now also spilling outside into the kind of public sphere. And so, Matt, I know like you didn't necessarily talk about this in your sermon, but you also talked about how the world really needs to see a picture of the church like representing Christ well, and we need, bold and strong Christians. Like, how does that image of our community of faith like challenge the world? Does that make sense?
Right. I mean, it goes back to the fact that we're supposed to be different. And so what's happening here is they're watching the dispute go on inside the family, if you will, and they're going, how is that any different than the rest of culture? Yeah, I mean, we are too. I think that's the biggest problem going on here is that they have accepted sin, and it has begun to change what the church looks like, and it's now changing them.
So
they're
imagine what that looks like on Facebook.
Go look today.
Inside the church.
Yeah.
Right. People on opposite ends of the spectrum on issues in the church going at each other.
Yep. Same thing. What is that witness doing to
Well, there
the
is
world
no
around
witness.
us?
It's
There is. It's a negative witness.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just say, Yeah.
There's no positive witness,
Yeah.
right?
No, there's no
Right.
positive note.
Right.
Because we can't even agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think and I wish we had more time. I actually had intention to teach through chapter 6.
I did too. And
But by the time I got through chapter 5, I'm like, there is no way. Like I was already pushing the limits. But it's interesting to me. So chapter 5, and we've talked about that. It's sin going on within the church. It's prevalent sin going on in the church. And Paul's really, this is a letter not to that man. This is a letter to the church. Like, hey, you need to love your church. You need to discipline your church. You need to act within your church so that we can preserve the church. And then I think chapter 6, we don't know this specifically, but some of the stuff I've read, and I'm inclined to have this thinking, but it's talking about chapter 6, and they're having lawsuits among each other. And it makes me think, like, we don't know the situation with this man who's sleeping with his father's wife, but it almost looks like because the church did not deal with it, now those people are in public lawsuits. And so now all of their baggage that should have been dealt with within the church is now being dealt with out in society. And it's compounding the whole problem, because it's saying, man, not only are you sinning in this way, you as a church are condoning it, and now it's going before this secular court out here. What kind of witness do we have for Jesus Christ?
Yeah. I really like verse 7 and 8, because here I think, we talked about in chapter 1 how the message of the gospel, Christ crucified, is a driving force. And I think verse 7 and 8 is one of those that you get this subtle teaching of how that applies, because hopefully my notes are right and I quoted it right. But it talks about, like, why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? And then he goes on to say, but instead of having that mindset, you cheat and do wrong. And this to our brothers and sisters. And so to me, I see in there a little bit picture of he's pulling on Christ's example to shape how they respond and treat each other, because Christ was wronged. He was cheated. He was, humiliated and shamed, but yet he did that out of love for us, for his sacrifice for us. And so, that message of Christ crucified transforms there. And then Matt, you brought up you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified. Can you guys elaborate a little bit more on that one? Because that just is a huge thing that just shapes, and understanding our identity and where we are in Christ.
I think that helps us to maintain the tension between grace and truth. Recognizing we've been there, right? And that's what he's saying to the Corinthians. Some of you did this.
Yeah.
And now you don't. So respond with love, but hold them to truth.
Yeah, that verse right before that, he's listing, like he's going down the list of all these sins, and he says, and you were these things. You did these things. And then he brings it up, but now you're sanctified.
6 times in chapter 6. Do you not know?
Yep.
Do you not know?
Yeah. I had that note too. Yeah.
You know better than this. We've talked about this. But it's maintaining that tension of loving people and hating sin, and it's a tough one to walk.
And the thing also too is, like, to realize that all of us around this table do that for each other, and should, right? So, like, one of the phrases that commonly gets thrown out is, well, like, what business of the church is for them to be in my personal life, or what gives a minister or a church leader the ability to call me out because of my sin? It's like, no, like, it isn't us sitting up here pointing down. It's like we are all the same, and we're all trying to put our lives under the authority of Christ. And when one of us steps out of line, the expectation, at least around this table, is that we lovingly call each other out and go, this isn't right.
What's the thing? If we don't call each other out, we're not loving.
Right.
We're just allowing you, or whoever you're allowing me, however it goes, to continue walking in that sin, even though we know it's wrong. But the fact, like, if you do not address it, if you do not confront, or vice versa, if someone does not address or confront the sin in my life, do they really love me? Right. Letting me walk down this path continually?
Yeah, because if you really believe the end destination is destruction, it's not very loving to let them go that way. That's his whole message here, right? We used to be, we're not now. Let's help each other walk clean. Let's be holy.
Because eternity is at stake.
Is anyone a language nerd here? Me neither.
But
Yeah, I know a
What-
little bit of Spanish.
But-
What language are you
that's
talking
quite
about
the
here?
setup.
You know,
right there.
Caleb, maybe you are the language nerd here. You invent words all the time.
I invented one yesterday.
Did you?
What'd you invent?
Judgmentalism.
Is that a word?
Oh,
My spell check computer said it was wrong, so I figured it was
closely
new.
akin to judgmentalistic.
I think you get one a year though that you can make up.
That's
Just
one a week
add
for
some
me.
endings
Oh,
on
okay.
words. It's fine.
Anyways, what's your language?
Well, going back to the you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by the Spirit of our God. Those, if I'm understanding it correctly, those are in the past tense and they're passive, meaning that the words Paul uses here is describing an action that happened in the past, but to them. So it's not on their own
Yeah,
ability.
nothing that they could have done.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's reminding them, like, this is who you were, but you were sanctified, you were justified, and just kind of reaffirming what Christ does.
I think you're onto something important because he contrasts that in the next section, verse 18, with the word flee from sexual immorality. It's a present imperative in Greek. So
You are a language person.
no, it's important. It means a habitual, perpetual flee. Right? You've been clean, past tense. That was done for you. Now your responsibility is to flee, continuously flee.
Yep.
No,
He's
I think he
language
is a
nerd.
language
Yeah, he is.
person.
Jeff
that's
wants-
Greek. 16 hours. Undergrad waste.
Jeff,
Obviously not
Jeff-
today.
Jeff GBT over here.
No, some in the past wrote
Did you
that in
get-
the margin.
Oh, you got it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of things written in there.
Guessing that was you.
Can't read them; they're so small.
Can't read
but-
them. It must have been me. Yeah, I used to be able to read it.
Used to be.
Yeah,
Some
sure,
really good stuff.
I was gonna
there
say
in the
there's some
margins.
really good notes in there. We just have to decipher them.
I think one of the things that I really tried to hit yesterday that I hope came across. I feel like I hope it did. Just the posture that we take when we go to somebody, because no matter what you do and when you do it, how you do it, whatever, there's always going to be the person on the other end of it going, "I don't trust you. I don't believe you. They seem judgmental," and it's like.
You said something I thought really smart a little while ago. As we were talking about people being offended by words that are preached. It's going to happen, and it's more likely to happen in that context because it's not a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we try to portray the heart, it's not a conversation, and so offensive issues are best done face to face, over a cup of coffee in a living room setting, not in church. And we got to proclaim truth. I'm not saying that. That's something we shy away
You're
from.
saying to confront an individual, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not in a public
and that's what
setting.
Jesus said.
Yeah, he lays it out in Matthew 18.
Go face to face.
Yep.
Right. If that doesn't work, take somebody with you.
Yep.
And I would also say too, like, if you're on the other end and you hear one of us say something that you're like, I don't know, come to us. Like,
Yeah.
like we want to have a conversation with you. We're far from perfect, and we may have said something wrong. It's possible. We try to say what's right, but if you want to ask a question, come and
I have
do
an
it.
individual who watches this podcast every time I preach that wants to clarify something that I said. So,
Well,
Roger.
That's why you've been quiet.
I thought you were talking about Chelsea.
No, but that's good. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
if you need clarification, or like, we're not like we're not perfect in everything we say, and sometimes
Most of the time.
yeah, most of the time
Just Jeff.
there's moments where we don't necessarily communicate exactly what we're trying to
Well,
get across.
somebody asked me yesterday before first service, ran into him. Hey, you ever get nervous about speaking on the weekends? And I'm to the point where I'm not as nervous to stand up in front of people, but I am nervous about the responsibility to communicate the truth of God's word.
Yep.
And if that is the point where that doesn't make you nervous, then you got a problem.
Truth.
Because the responsibility we have is high, and it should be.
There's two examples that are on my mind of biblical stories where this process was followed out and worked. right? One is Apollos,
Mm-hmm.
who had a doctrinal error in his teaching.
Yep.
And it seems he just didn't know. Right. So Paul instructs Priscilla and Aquila, a husband and wife Jewish team that came from Rome, right there at Corinth, to go talk to Apollos. So they have him in their home. You know,
And in his case, it may not have been fault to him, but as the church, when we recognize it,
Yeah.
then we need to go and
But the pattern that
carefully
they-
instruct.
the pattern is they sat down and
Yes.
they ate supper, they broke bread together, you know, and they talked about the error
Yep.
and the correction. That's one example. The other one is on this very issue of chapter 5, mentioned in 2 Corinthians. So we have 1 Corinthians from Ephesus. There's another letter Paul references that's lost. And we have 2 Corinthians, which Paul writes, and in part of that, he addresses this particular issue. So what happened when they confronted this fellow after Paul's letter? Well, I'm sure he wasn't happy about it.
Yep.
But ultimately, he ended up repenting.
Mm-hmm.
Repenting means not just feeling bad and feeling sorry, but changing.
Yep.
There's a change in his behavior. And now what happens is the church misunderstood, I guess, or forgot the part about redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to let him back in
Uh-huh.
to the fellowship. And Paul said, wait a minute. The goal of this was that he would be changed. He has been changed. He is in the church. He's the church, right?
Yep.
That's who we were. That's who we are.
Which is
I think that's an important thing to remember about this. The goal is restoration.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Not condemnation.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, when you treat them like a pagan or tax collector, it worked in this case.
Absolutely.
This man heard the gospel preached, and he realized that he needed to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe the best thing you said yesterday was that how do we treat a pagan or tax collector? We're told to go and share the good news with them.
Mm-hmm.
We love them. We don't just kick them out in the cold. Now, there's a lot of variables. It's hard to cover every scenario, but you love them with truth. Sorry, we took over.
No, you're good. I'll save this for next week. So,
You got more?
well, yeah, we have. I mean, just wrapping up the final section of chapter 6. But
Well, but next week we're going to be on chapter
We're talking
7.
about marriage. We're experts on
What do
that.
you got?
We got a lot to talk about next week.
One of us is.
Well, how many years have you been married?
36,
That's a trick question.
coming on 37.
Okay.
December?
30. No, it's coming up on 36 in December.
So 35.
So I'm 21 right now.
Really? I thought you were 40.
No, 21 years
Oh,
of marriage. How many have you been married?
coming up on 15.
Okay, so you and I combined are like the same as Jeff. So
So
70
glad that he gave me this
70
recon.
years. How many years have you been married, Caleb?
20.
Okay, so there's
About Spanish
90.
years. Is that different?
How many years?
we'll be at 10 years.
100 years
Funny, but it's
of
funny.
marriage experience sitting right here right
Stefan,
now.
what about you?
100
Wait.
years.
I didn't hear what Levi said.
Oh, yeah,
What did you say,
Stephen,
Levi?
how many-
Stefan's here.
It'll be 10 years.
It'll be
and
10
2
Give us
weeks.
your anniversary. Go. When's your
16?
anniversary?
Look at that.
Natasha? Let's fact check that.
Wow.
116 years of
You know what
marriage
that means?
wisdom.
We've made about every mistake possible.
That's about right. So
I bet I got a few more to put in there.
The question is, have we learned anything?
yeah, that'll be next week. I'm looking forward to
Spanish
that
years
one.
longer.
I am too. There's some verses
They're
in
the
here I
same.
really like.
The rotation around, as
verse
the Earth
5.
makes a rotation around the sun, it does that the same amount in well,
Nah,
you realize that
in-
Mexico is in
Chapter
North
7,
America
verse
as well,
5.
right?
In Mexico, it does twice as many.
No,
What
no,
is
no.
even happening?
It's in the same
Spanish
continent.
years are
Chapter
different.
7, verse 5.
Let's go back to chapter 3 and talk
All
about
right.
bickering and quarreling among you.
I think
that is
we're about
pointless.
done
It's in
here.
the Bible.
Let's land it.
We done?
See you next week.
All right. Thanks for listening.